Did Richard III really murder the princes in the Tower? Did gladiators always fight to the death? And were George Washington's teeth really made of wood? Let's break down 5 of the most stubborn myths in history and why history got it wrong. The princes in the Tower were definitely murdered by Richard III. In 1483, 2 young princes, Edward V and his brother Richard, disappeared inside the Tower of London. History quickly pointed the finger at their ambitious uncle, Richard III, who took the crown and became king. For centuries, the narrative was simple. Richard murdered them to secure his throne. Shakespeare even dramatized it, casting Richard as a hunchbacked villain dripping with guilt. But modern historians aren't so sure. No bodies were ever confirmed, no eyewitnesses ever emerged, and evidence is shockingly thin. Some believe the princes were killed later by Henry VII to legitimize his rule, or that they may have survived in secret. So was Richard a cold-blooded killer, or just a convenient scapegoat? From medieval mystery to modern forgery, let's talk about a 20th century scam that tricked the world. The Hitler Diaries fooled no one. In 1983, a German news magazine announced a shocking find. Hitler's personal diaries had been discovered in East Germany. Historians scrambled to verify them, and many initially believed they were real. Even Rupert Murdoch's The Sunday Times bought the rights to publish excerpts. But within weeks, the hoax unraveled. The diaries were forged by Konrad Kujau, a con artist with a flair for fake Nazi memorabilia. The paper, ink and style were all wrong. Despite popular belief, the Hitler Diaries did fool millions, including experts. It remains one of the greatest historical frauds ever exposed. Now, from fake diaries to fake deaths. Let's go back 2,000 years to the Roman Colosseum. Gladiators always fought to the death. Swords clashing, blood flying, one man standing. This is how Hollywood loves to depict Roman gladiators. But the truth, most gladiator fights did not end in death. These were expensive professionals, often trained in elite schools. Owners didn't want to lose their investment. In fact, many battles were refereed and rules allowed for mercy. Yes, some fights were deadly, especially during large festivals or under emperors like Commodus. But on average, the mortality rate hovered around 1 in 10. So no, gladiators weren't slaughtered daily for sport. That's Tinseltown, not truth. Speaking of legends, what about the boy who pulled a sword from a stone and became king? The sword in the stone made Arthur king. The tale of King Arthur pulling a sword from a stone is iconic, thanks largely to Disney and Le Morte d'Arthur. But the real story? Much murkier. Le Morte d'Arthur is a famous 15th century book by Sir Thomas Malory that retells the legend of King Arthur and his knights. If Arthur existed, he likely wasn't a crowned king in shining armor, but a 5th or 6th century war leader fighting off Saxon invasions after Rome's collapse in Britain. The sword in the stone legend was added centuries later, mixing Celtic myth with Christian symbolism. It was never part of early Arthurian tales, so while it makes great cinema, the sword wasn't what made Arthur a king, if he was one at all. Now let's cross the Atlantic for a story told in every American classroom. George Washington had wooden teeth. One of the most famous myths about America's first president is that he wore wooden dentures. It's repeated in textbooks, cartoons, and classrooms, but in reality, George Washington's teeth were made of anything but wood. His dentures were crafted from ivory, gold, lead, and even human teeth, sometimes from slaves or cadavers. They were uncomfortable, discolored, and poorly fitted, but never made of wood. Why the confusion? The ivory stained over time, giving it a grainy brown look at them, and the wooden myth was born. So no. Washington may have chopped down a cherry tree, but he never chewed with timber. The cherry tree story is a famous legend about George Washington. According to the tale, young Washington confessed to chopping down his father's cherry tree, saying, "I cannot tell a lie." However, historians agree this story was invented to illustrate his honesty and never actually happened. Which myth surprised you most? From royal disappearances to dental deceptions, we've uncovered 5 more myths that fooled the world. Which one shocked you the most? Tell us in the comments. Like, share and subscribe for more episodes of History Got It Wrong. And if you love royal scandals, military legends, and myth-busting history, watch episode 1 next. Napoleon wasn't short, Vikings didn't wear horns, and more.